Welcome to Franchise Focus. I am your host, Lisa Linkowski. I am the owner of Milestone Franchising and a certified franchise consultant. I represent hundreds of franchise concepts across many industries, and this show is all about interviewing various people within the franchising world. Today, very happy to have with me Gary Zermuehlen. Gary, I can't believe I just botched your name, and we've known each other for so long. My apologies. And
no
Gary
apologies needed. I even struggle with it sometimes.
Gary is coming to us from Georgia today, and Gary is a sales coach and trainer with Sandler Training. Welcome, Gary.
It's great to be here, Lisa. I really look forward to this.
Very excited, and our paths had crossed many moons ago in a different world, far away, and here we are back now in the franchising world together. So tell me, Gary, how did you come into being a sales coach and trainer with Sandler Training?
Yeah, I always loved that space, the adult education space, and I was with Dale Carnegie before, and then of course COVID hit, and they had to make a lot of changes, and I was some of the collateral damage of all of that. And then I said, what do I do with my life now? Because I really do like coaching people and working with people. I kept hearing the name Al Simon, saying he was one of the better sales trainers in the country, and that he was right here in Atlanta, and that I should seek him out. And so I did, and learned about him, learned about Sandler, and I said, man, this is a place I would really like to work. And that's when we got introduced, and I started working with him after that.
So that's terrific. And Sandler was developed in 1967 and franchised over 38 years ago. So tell us, what exactly is Sandler Training for those that are not familiar?
Yeah, we're really a sales performance organization and consulting firm. So we're really just there to help companies, organizations with their sales team, help them meet and exceed their goals, and also go through transformations. That's really what we do.
And do you know how many locations there are across the country, or dare I say across the globe, because Sandler is a worldwide company?
Yeah, I think there's around 246 or so all over the globe. So they're in a lot of different places, all over, ranging, I would say, about 246 of them, and ranging about 3 to 10 people in each.
3 to 4 employees?
I would say that, yeah, about
Okay.
that.
What are the different types of roles that people can have in a Sandler franchise?
Yeah, a lot of it is, we kind of are the service, and we're also the people who sell the service as well. But we provide, you'll have someone in there who's doing the training, the coaching. There may be an additional person that's doing some of the selling in there as well. And then sometimes there's an admin person in there as well that's kind of running the whole organization.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you have been in this, you started, as you just said, just during the pandemic. How has that been for you, adjusting into this new world that you've been in this kind of role before, but now it's within this company? How has that been for you, and how has it been for Sandler overall?
Well, people thought I was crazy to begin with. They said, oh my goodness, he's going into this sales position. It's entirely commission-based. We're in the middle of COVID. I don't have really a base at all. I have to start developing that from zero. They said, boy, that's going to be a tough road to hoe. But the product is so good, and I never had any doubts that it would work. But it did, it's getting in there and learning it and working it. When you're in a COVID situation, the beauty to it, there is a silver lining. It allows you to think in different ways, adapt in different ways. Our organization had to adapt in different ways to COVID. And so really, it's when we're out of those comfort zones like that we really grow and get better. And that's exactly what happened for me and really everybody in our franchise.
And Gary, in the consulting world, I'm a consultant myself, what was the advantage of being your own consultant versus going along and joining up within a franchise?
That's very good question. A lot of people are asking me that. We've been in sales for over 25 years. Certainly you could go out there and just do this yourself. But it turns out there's just certain things you just can't do that well yourself. One example is we have the sales mastery class. That's 33 different sessions that we do over a course of a year, all of which has its own content, which has been time tested and practiced and wrote for and perfected over many, many, many years. For me to do that myself would probably take 5 or 6 years to be able to do that. We also have a learning management system, which has over 20,000 hours of podcasts, videos, white pages that they can also access, or that I can send them to them in a link that they can look at on their own time. I couldn't do all of that. It's all of these franchise owners all over the world that are contributing to that on a daily basis and making it better and on a daily basis. So, there's things like that. This really accelerates my ability to be far more effective at what I'm doing by having this franchise.
Right, and content is king, especially these days. You have to have content for everything, and people are absorbing so much information in so many different ways. And so you're saying that, you've got over 250 almost franchise owners out there. They're all collaborating together, compiling all of this vast amount of material for this library that is then shared with your clients. So yeah, that's really impossible to try to do all of that as one person.
Yeah, and it's also too, we help each other too, Lisa. So for example, every Wednesday we have what we call Role Play Wednesday, where we come together and we come with our own challenges, maybe challenges that some of our own clients have, and we sit there and we figure them out. We role play them, we practice them. We're always there to improve ourselves. So yeah, I do coach and train, but I'm also being coached and trained all along as well by these people who have been doing it, some for over 20, 30 years.
And that collaboration, I always have said, is so integral in a franchise system, because you don't want to be out there. That's why you chose to belong to a system in the first place. If you were trying to go and do something all by yourself, you're alone completely. But in a franchise, and one that's well established already, you get that comfort of having all of that wealth of information and expertise that's been given from previous people that are there, and they're generously sharing that with you, and then you get to then share that with your clients, and it makes for a much better overall type of an organization in that way. And I'm sure you were drawn to that as well.
Oh yeah, this is part of it. There's one thing that we always tell people, where we're even consulting them in business, is that you just can't do it all alone. Don't even try to do it all alone. It's impossible. You can't run all the different lanes at once. Reach out to people, if it's our franchise or others or other professionals in that world, and have them help you do it. That's all they do. They're good at it. Go out there and seek their help.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, the pandemic, and so many of us, myself including, had to do so much change and strategy, rematchiation, and, just trying to refigure everything out. Tell me, are there things that came out of all of this that have changed your training that you're going to implement for good, that, you didn't do it before, and now you're going, hey, I think this actually works better? Because I'm hearing that as well.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you on that. There's an old saying I've heard, and it's that, our comfort zone is a beautiful place to be in, but nothing ever grows there. And so being out of our comfort zone is when we grow, when we learn, when we develop. And that's exactly what we have done over this last year. We used to be able to be more just in person in our training center. But because of COVID, we had to become hybrid. We had to learn how to get people involved through Zoom. And then we had to figure out, how do the people in Zoom get to see the people in the room? How do the people in the room get to see the people in the Zoom? And so we added all kinds of cameras. We put up mics everywhere. We added lights. We did all of these things so everyone could get a great experience. And then when Zoom did breakout sessions, of course, we established that as well in the system. And now we're going this is really a good thing. because we're never going to stop doing this. We'll be able to continue doing this onward, which will allow people from, well, as we're seeing already, from all over the world to experience our training right here out of Peachtree Corners, Atlanta.
That's fantastic. And, you know, I know schools had to deal with that, you know, trying to have the hybrid of, you know, having the teacher teach to the kids that were in person and then teach to the kids that were remote. And it was a difficult challenge. And you're saying that you were able to rise to that challenge and actually work so well with it that you can consider continuing to do that for those that are unable to travel for one reason or another.
It's just that, I mean, as humans, that's one of our strengths, and that is the ability to adapt. And I think that's what's key, is that we could sit at home and just say, well, throw up our arms and give up. Just wait for the COVID to go over, then I'll start working again or selling again, or wherever you may be doing. But the reality is the best thing to do is to adapt. What can I do? What else is there another way I can get this done? Is there another way I can approach this? And in that process, you will learn and grow and develop and maybe find another way or another lane to be successful in that you never would have imagined if it wasn't for something like COVID. So there is a silver lining to it.
That's amazing. And, you know, it is something to always look at, you know, even during these most difficult times, that you were able to, you know, work within these challenges and exceed them and keep on moving, which, you know, that's something that we all need to do. And as a coaching franchise, that's something that you should be, you know, working within your own clients of saying, this is exactly what you need to be doing within your own businesses, right? So if you're doing the walk, you've got to do the talk as well, right? And it sounds like Sandler has been able to measure up to that. That's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Well, so let's change tacks for a moment. So you're this coach and a sales trainer for Sandler, which means that you're in business development. That means that you are going out to go get your new clients, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back from the other side, we're going to learn all about how you go about working in your business development, and especially coming in right during the pandemic. So stay tuned and wait for a moment for a word from our sponsors. And welcome back to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Linkowski, and I am here today with the coach and trainer for Sandler Training, Gary Zermuehlen, and we were talking right before the commercial break, Gary, about your business development. And when I talk to my candidates, business development is everything in a franchise, and going out there and doing those guerrilla marketing tactics to go and get yourself clients. And here you had to do that during a pandemic when you couldn't go do the the face-to-face, in-person networking that's so needed. So what was your strategy, and what do you do during, at this point in time as well?
Yeah, we really focus on three things in our training, and one of them is attitude. And that's a big part of it when you're going through a COVID situation. And so a lot of it's just realizing that, you can't get down, you can't complain, you got to stay positive. And so a lot of it was just that, is being able to realize that, good times don't last forever, but guess what? Bad times don't last forever either. And that there still is business out there. There is. And there's been a lot of people in COVID that have done fantastic. I've talked to a number of them that had the best years they've ever had. So it's not that case for everybody. Now we watch the news and we see all that. This looks like it's Armageddon, right? Everyone's just going down and going. But it's not the case. There's a lot of people having success. So it's just a matter of picking up the phone and realizing that that next phone call may be reaching one of those people that needs your service, needs what you need to do. And if you didn't make that phone call, you never would have made that contact.
So what are some of your strategies and your goals, without giving your entire secret sauce, but what are some of those strategies that you implement for, going out? You were saying to me that, you make so many calls a day, or, you've got to make sure that you set so many appointments, actual meetings with people, whether that's virtual or in person. Talk to me about that, Gary.
Yeah, that's exactly it. What we call is the second thing next to attitude that we train is behaviors. That's the actions, the daily things that you're doing. So we got to have a goal. We need to have that. But goals by themselves don't get you there, even though we write it down. It's the actions that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that gets you there. So it's kind of figuring out first, what do I need to do to be able to get the business going? Now, obviously, COVID, it may not be networking. So, okay, I'm not going to be able to do the networking. But I can still go out there and do the cold calling. So, okay, maybe I do more of those. Maybe I have to do 10 a day. Maybe I have to do 20 a day. And you kind of walk into your number. It's like, how many people do I normally have to call to get a conversation? And then from those conversations, how many of those people do I get an appointment with? And you kind of walk into your number, and that determines how many people that you will be calling and reaching out to. And then you just stay disciplined to that. And you just, no matter what, you carve it out on your calendar, you do calendar blocking, and you say, okay, for this hour or these 2 hours, that's all I'm doing is making calls or emails or reaching out to clients, prospects that might be able to do business with you.
It is a continuing, ongoing, everyday thing that has to be done. And to your point, setting those goals. I've worked from home for over 17 years, and, waking up the first thing in the morning and setting that, what is my agenda, what's going to happen, and then ticking it all off as it's going throughout the day. It's really important, because when you're working on your own, you don't have someone standing over your shoulder to tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and it's on you. And you've got to answer only to yourself. So for those franchise owners that are out there, or the ones that want to become the franchise owner, understanding that diligence and that making sure, that fortitude and making sure that you're sticking with it and going through, so very important. And you're doing that each and every day. And what are some other ways that you reach your clients?
Yeah, is interestingly enough, is that maybe I was fortunate, but there were some networking groups that were still meeting in person. There wasn't as many people there. They may have had a limited amount that they could take in there, but they were still meeting. It was just a matter of going out there. I had others that started meeting through Zoom. So it's interesting. It's just they picked up on different ways to adapt as well. And so it's just by reaching out, still looking into them, I found out a lot of them were still doing business, and I was able to stay in touch with these people, keep those connections going, and most importantly, planting seeds. Even if we can't make a sale today, we can still plant seeds for tomorrow. I think they always say the best thing to judge is not your harvest, but to judge the amount of seeds that you planted that will be there for your next harvest.
I like that very much. A dear colleague of mine always said, no doesn't mean no, it just means not now. And that's something that always sticks in the back of my mind on a regular basis. And Al also has there's a radio program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's another thing, which I thought was some ingenuity on Radio X and all of that. But it's a radio show that he puts on once a month. I think it's like the third Thursday of every month. And on that show, we bring in people in various different companies, some that we're not even doing business with, some that we are, and we bring them on, not unlike your show here, and we interview them. And it's a great way for us to learn about them. It allows them for us to do this podcast, which we put out there in social medias, and so it helps them from a marketing standpoint. They can include that podcast right there in their signature if they want. And then it allows us to, again, to learn more about them and perhaps even do business with them at some point too. So there's, again, other ways to reach out to people, and that's just another way of doing it.
That's fantastic. And yes, ingenuity, always important. And also you can't be everywhere to everyone. That's something else that, my background is marketing, that, you can't, there's so many different social media avenues, and everyone thinks you've got to be on every single platform. And when you try to be everywhere, you end up being nowhere. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of the goal, is really finding out what lane do you need to be in. If it is social media, great. Get good at that. Do that. If it's going on billboards, if that's getting you your business, go there. If it's just the best way to reach out to people is going to networking functions or doing workshops and bringing people in for a workshop or something like that, by all means do that. But it's just finding out what is giving you the most results and spend most of your time there. And the things that aren't getting you any results, by all means, remove them, eliminate them. And that's a process that you have to keep fine-tuning all the time and changing. And of course, COVID changes things and various different outside forces too, but you got to keep going in there and fine-tuning that.
Absolutely. And one of the great things about franchising that often doesn't get spoken about is that there's an end game. You have a contract in a franchise, and it could be, on average, it's usually about 10 years. It depends from franchise to franchise, but it allows people to come up with an exit strategy, because all too often when someone owns a business, they don't think about that exit strategy. They don't think about, well, what is it that I want to do after this, or at what point, and they don't come up with that. And it should be part of their business plan. And what's the exit strategy for you and for this Sandler Training franchise? What's happening in your area that you're seeing?
Yeah, Al, who's our owner, he often laughs and says, I am his exit strategy. I'm part of his succession plan, and which is a great honor to have him say as well. But that's just it. I mean, you can't just say, okay, in 5 years I'm going to sell this thing, and then sit back and expect a lot of people to just line up and buy the franchise, even if it is successful. In our case, there's just a lot of moving parts. You have to learn this service. You have to learn how to coach. You have to learn all the different things that we're training. You just can't do that overnight. And to be able to do that and run the business at the same time could be overwhelming. So sometimes the best option is to gradually bring someone into the business, get them up to speed. In our case, we really think it's going to be a 2-year period of time before I'm going to be there where I could very well take it over. And it also gives me a time to see if I like this business, if I can be successful in this business. I know I can invest my money in it. I'm going to get it out. So it's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for me. And also allows Al to go out and play golf every once in a while, which is something he loves to do, and give me some of the training or some of the work. So, there's that too.
That's excellent. And yeah, to sit there and bring someone in is so ideal, that they learn everything. You get to teach them instead of being on fire and then being like, I want out of this. And then you're just scrambling. You're sitting there and easing in and working with someone, and both of you are seeing, is this a good fit? And then you just step right in, and there's very minimal ripple effect for your clients and for the business in general. What a great plan that you both have in place. Absolutely. So let me ask you this, Gary. Who are Sandler's ideal clients? Who is it that is the most, who do you most like to target?
Yeah, I would say most of them are privately owned companies that have a sales force of 4 or more on there. That seems to be the best lane for us. These are companies that they can't really afford to bring on a sales manager and pay them $70,000, $80,000 or more a year. They just don't have that type of budget, but yet they want to be able to get that same type of synergy going on in the company. So here's a way of doing it. They can bring us on and we can be that sales manager. We can be there to help fine tune that sales team and get them up to the point where they can eventually beat the competition around, as well, being able to have these sales skills. So that's usually what I would say is the lane that we're in.
And do you look at a special industry, or does not matter?
Yeah, we've done all kinds of different industries. It's interesting because each industry will tell me, well, you don't know our world, you probably can't help us. And what we find out through our conversation is everyone, it's not that untypical for them to have a lot of the same challenges. It's a pipeline that's weak. It could be the fact that they're discounting too much. The sales cycle is too long. They just don't know how to prospect or have the confidence to do it. Or it doesn't change that much really from one industry to another. Now, as I'm coaching them, I'm also learning about their business and learning the nuances and what goes on in there. And now, once I have that information, now I can really customize the training to their world. And that comes through my conversations with them. That comes as they're coming to me with their challenges and things of that nature.
Excellent. Gary, this has been so informative, and it's been so great to reconnect with you after all these years. I just love spending time talking with you, and I wish you so much success in the next road ahead of what's going to happen and whether or not you're going to be taking this over. So we'll have to stay in touch so that I can then have you back on again, and maybe next time you'll be the actual owner of Sandler Training. So let's ask you this, since we're out of time, what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, the best way really is you can just 770-622-7000. That's 770-622-7000. They can always call us, and we're happy to help them that way. You can find us on the great internet there at Simon Inc. Simon Inc. www.simoninc.com, and that's another way to get hold of us as well.
And your area that you represent is in what part of Georgia?
Yeah, so we're right in Peachtree Corners. We're kind of right in Metro Atlanta, right there in the heart of it. And we've been there for, I think, close to about 20 years now.
Wonderful. Well, Gary, it's been a pleasure. I thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I hope to see you one day in person. And for my audience, thank you so much for tuning into Franchise Focus. This show is on every Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I'm Lisa Linkowski. I am the owner of Milestone Franchising, and you can find out all about me at my company at milestonefranchising.com.